Hello folks, Reverend Crystal Cox here, and I'm going to talk to you today about, I'm going to giggle a little bit. I'm giggling because, there's noise. You never know when there's going to be noise. And because, it's just been one of those, anyway. Okay, this is not a word to laugh about. Okay, I want to talk about the fear. I'm going to laugh and talk about the fear because there's noise around me. I don't know if you can hear it. The word witchcraft. I've been using it different since my birthday, which has been about 3 weeks. I've talked about witches and witchcraft and said that I was a witch and talked about Wiccan stuff for years. I've studied it to some degree. I felt really kin to it based on what it felt like intuitive to me. And intuitively, I felt like witchcraft was about herbs, Mother Earth, about intention, yes, casting spells, curses perhaps, or removing curses, helping people deal with illnesses, whether it be with emotions or energy, or removing curses or placing curses, or, I really felt kin to the whole witchcraft thing my whole life. But I didn't really know, I wasn't really feeling the gardener stuff. I wasn't really feeling Wicca in general. The more I studied it, there was elements about it that I liked. But in my church is called Bringing About Goddess Church, and I was searching for the goddess in it, and I was reading a lot of, I think, male authors, but even the women authors, I wasn't really clicking into something where I could say, yeah, 100% know that I'm a witch, that my bloodline's a witch, and that I have always been a witch. And I still held the taboos of, the people think about witches being negative or evil or devil worshippers. It's funny, I have these goddess witch tarot cards, and they don't even use the devil card because they say witches don't believe in the devil. They use the shadow card instead. And so many people now are persecuted for being witches, and bad things are happening, and they're doing this in the name of God and in the name of the Bible, and it's really sad. If your religious doctrine is stomping over the rights of someone else's, it's not of the light, it's not of God or of Goddess, it's just not, how could it possibly be right to harm another human being in the name of who you say is holy and sacred? I mean, the Great Spirit created this life, and you feel like you can judge that life based on what your interpretation is of the Bible. And it's recent. I mean, I heard it again last week of someone else being persecuted or people being killed or bad things because they call themselves witches. Well, I've had a lifetime of persecution. I think I could take a little bit more. I've always been ready, as I've said in other videos, to give my life for my cause. So whatever the fates, the Great Spirit, Mother Goddess has in mind for me, I'm ready for that. On my birthday, I ran across a book about Italian witchcraft, and I had not really, I never buy new books. I like used books because I like their energy. I love free books, of course, because they're free, but they're also on topics that I would buy a book on, but I wouldn't necessarily, a general genre, and topic, but not necessarily a book or an author, and so it exposes me to a lot of things I would not have normally looked at, so I really like that. So the fact that this book that I bought myself for my birthday really kind of just jumped out at me was kind of different for me. And as I started reading the book, I realized that my hesitancy about witchcraft, I mean, I was learning about it, I read some really great authors and some really great books, and I called myself, Wiccan, and I feel that is similar to pagan and shamanism and Native American stuff, and really the ancient study of witchcraft. When you go way back and you feel connected to a place in time. When you feel that, I don't know if you folks have ever felt that, but like you really believe what you're worshiping or what you're feeling, and you believe in the God or the goddess within you. And to have that moment, you know, I've always studied herbs. I've studied alternative medicine for 20 years, 25 years. I read all Susan Weed's books. I really like Ingrid Naiman, and I've studied a lot on wildcrafting, and which I think, you know, is part of the being a witch. And the information that's out there was so fear-based that I was being exposed to. I wasn't getting to the root of what felt like was really witchcraft to me. And so, let me make sure this is still recording. So the book I bought on my birthday actually talked about witches in a point in time in Tuscany and in Naples, and in it was like I said, Italian witchcraft. And I finally felt like, oh, this is it. This is the real deal. This is beyond what men interpreted. I mean, these were men's writings. This was I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the authors were men, but they were telling the story of the women. And I like to go, you know, back as far as I can and get, you know, as deep as I can into something when I learn about it. You know, same way in college. I went to college for forestry. They taught us like 20 plants for forestry for the timber industry, and I learned hundreds and hundreds of them, and now, you know, thousands of them. And so I like to really dig deep. And I felt really kin to this. And then I felt more comfortable saying, you know what, I am a witch. And I'm more comfortable with saying witchcraft than Wiccan, you know, because of the gardener stuff. And then that led me to, actually I had heard of Z Budapest, but I'd never really read her stuff. I'd heard of Dianic witchcraft, but I'd never really studied it. I didn't really get the difference. And I never really considered myself, I never really said, well, I'm a feminist. And I never really looked at that stuff. And the more I studied the roots of witchcraft, the more I found that. But I came across a book, Summoning the Fates, a couple of weeks ago. And I realized that that was it. That's it. That ties together the Palladian stuff for me, the Native American stuff for me, the shaman stuff for me. It ties together everything that I've studied and I've learned, and it feels right. I also know that that is in my bloodline. Some of the things I've read, I know different members of my family have said at points in my life. And I'm not claiming, I'm not outing anybody else or saying that anybody in my family is a witch, but I do know that it's in the bloodline. And so the more I read this, the more I felt like, yes, definitely, witchcraft is a word that I like and I'm familiar with, and certainly I will get persecuted. I've been persecuted in the biggest media out there. I've had online hate campaigns about me for years, so I'm certainly not afraid of being myself and getting more persecution. I don't even care. I trust that the Great Spirit, Mother Goddess, has in mind for me is of my highest and best good, and I don't fear that. So, on being a feminist, I never excluded men from anything. I never felt like I was anti-male. I was with a woman for a few years that, in a relationship, that was a separatist. And she liked men, fine. I mean, she had, you know, brothers and she was around men. She just didn't want to live with men. So she wanted to have separate, you know, activities, separate lives, separatist. And I kind of get that. I mean, you know, living with men is different. Men are different. Their sounds are different. Their smells are different. Their energy is different. And I realized years later, I'm really not comfortable living with a man. I'm not comfortable with a man in my home. Whether it's things that happened or past lives or whatever this life, I'm not really comfortable with that. And so I'm not really a separatist, but I am for equal rights. I am for, you know, women of power. I am more comfortable with the word feminist now. I get labeled man-hater. I have got labeled that in my fight giving voice to victims of rape and abuse and domestic violence situations and the corruption that I've exposed. I've been called a man-hater, but I've never been a man-hater. I at one point even thought, well, you know, maybe that I did want to date men, and I opened myself to that energy, but it's not where I want to be. It's not who I am. I think that men are strong and wonderful, some of them. I've rarely met them. I don't have an experience of having a father in my life that I respect or love or feel that, so I never really had that figure in my life. So maybe that's it. But I don't want to live with a man. I don't want to be in a relationship with a man. And my church is not about men. Bringing Back the Goddess is about women and the rising of the feminine divine. Okay? Now, check this again. This is in no way excluding men on whether or not we help them. See? Because we're going to continue, we're going to be helping men in our programs. We're going to be the domestic violence stuff programs with our church. Mostly, you know, it's men, okay? Men are victims too. I get that. We'll help them where we can, men in different situations. But so in sexual abuse and molestation and some of the other programs that we have, most of the bad guys are men, okay? But we want to celebrate women and femininity, but we also want to empower men as well. So empowering women, we want men and women to be equal, okay? It's not about making women reign the world and heck with men, okay? It's about strong women, and you know, women love men, and there's good men out there. There's good men that are strong and smart and sweet and sexy, and these women love them and they're good to them. I don't have that experience in my life, but we certainly respect that. We're certainly not anti-male in any way. But I myself am, yes, I would have to say I am a feminist. So, feminist, witchcraft, and I am a lesbian, of course, as you've already gathered through this conversation and many of my others. I came out when I was 15, and to me, loving women has been about intellectual connection. Women's bodies are beautiful and soft, and I love being a lesbian. But the thing is I really connect with women spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and for me that's really important, and that matters a lot. To me, loving women is sacred. Okay, love is sacred. To people who, you know, love men, then that's sacred. You know, men loving men. Wherever your heart's at, that's sacred for you. So, to me, being a lesbian is sacred. And when you mix these things, people tend to think that you're radical or that you're a sinner, or they want to label you as something that's bad in biblical scripture and just kind of come at you from all directions when you put them all together. You know, lesbian, feminist, witchcraft. Okay, lesbian, witchcraft. The people that believe that all sin is equal, for example, so if you smoke a cigarette or you get a tattoo, that sin is equal to being a lesbian. If you murder somebody, that's equal to being a lesbian. Lesbianism is not a sin, okay? I don't believe in any of that on any level. To me, it is sacred. So when you have people out there, there's a lot of people that make fun of lesbian witchcraft, and a lot of people make it about sex. Sex is a wonderful gift to mankind, and it is very spiritual. Spirituality and sexuality go hand in hand, okay? So my life, my love, who I am as an activist, as a First Amendment, you know, advocate, as what I've done with my life is feminist. But I have given a role and a voice to men as well on the internet in what I've done, and I in no way hate men or anything, but I do have to say I would have to label myself as a lesbian feminist and lesbian witchcraft, okay? And having learned about the Dianic witchcraft more so recently, I have to say that I feel very kin to that. Those that know me know I'm also I feel I'm played in, so who I am in the universe and who I incarnate as a human being is kind of different, okay? And we won't really talk a lot about that, but I just wanted to do this video explaining to you what it is to me to be a lesbian, to put these words together that really freak people out. The word lesbian freaks people out, the word witchcraft freaks people out, the word feminist freaks people out. They think it's all this crazy stuff. You know, why wouldn't you be a feminist, really? You know, there's a lot of men who are feminists, okay? Women still don't get equal pay. Women still don't get equal rights. Women still are mostly the victims of domestic violence. Women are the victims of molestation issues. It's still men that are doing these things. I'm not saying men are bad. I'm just saying that more good men need to stand up and stop bad men, because women are just as smart, if not smarter, we'll leave it at that, than men. But for the most part, women are not stronger than men, right, physically. And it ends up coming down to that. So just a little video here on basically just goddess worship and Italian witchcraft, Dianic witchcraft, and lesbian witchcraft, which would be basically the fact that I'm a woman who loves women and I'm a witch. So combining those energies just is who I am and who I identify with. And it's seems to be very taboo for people, and you know, and as well as the pentagram and many other things out there. I'm not going to live my life anymore trying to explain to people why they should not be afraid of something. If your God wants to, if you feel your God needs to persecute me and that's what you're going to do, well, if you harm me or you infringe on my rights, you're going to go to jail or get sued for it. That's what you want your life to be. But I trust that the Great Spirit, the Fates, Mother Goddess will lead me towards my highest and best good. So, hello. I'm Reverend Crystal Cox, and I'm a lesbian witch. God bless you all.